Hi everyone, welcome to our Discord stage. Today we're going to talk about our self-custody feature currently in the works and soon to be released. This has been a top priority for us, and we know you're all eager to learn how the process will work, how it'll impact your collections, and where we are in the rollout. We're going to cover all of that, plus we'll be answering your questions submitted in advance. To stay on topic, we'll only be addressing self-custody related questions today. If the question you submitted was on another topic, please go to the community help section of our Discord to submit your question. Before we get started, in case you missed it, we announced earlier today that we are migrating our domain from candy.com to candy.io in the coming weeks. As part of our commitment to enhancing your experience, this change will help us sustain and grow the exciting offerings we have planned for the future. You can expect a seamless transition and enhanced features and functionality. We'll keep you posted via email, X, and Discord on key dates and next steps, so please stay tuned. This Discord stage is being recorded and will be available for anyone who misses it or wants to revisit any part of the conversation later. Joining me today is our VP of Product and Engineering, Yaro Plashenko, who's been leading the development of our self-custody feature. I'm your host, Shay Byron, Director of Marketing here at Candy Digital. Hi, Yaro. Welcome.
Hi, Shay. Hi, everyone. I will say I love the post. It's very funny to follow. So.
Oh, yeah, love the chat. Yeah, I love it too. Love everyone's comments. Well, glad to have you on, Yaro. This is your first time on a Discord stage with us, so welcome. So let's get right to it. You ready to share all the goods? Okay, well, let's start Let's start with a quick overview. Can you give us an overview of the self-custody feature and share the progress we've made so far?
Absolutely. So, hi, everyone. Glad to be here. We've been hearing you loud and clear for a long time that you guys were asking for ownership of your digital assets. So in the last few months, we've been actively working on introducing that. Currently, we're at our last 5 yards of actually wrapping it up. We've been actively testing it internally in the last few weeks, and we'll be opening it up in the next week or so for broader testing. So you will hear more about that soon. In terms of the actual feature and what it will cover, we will allow you to go to your collection, pick any of the assets, go through a withdrawal flow, which basically will ask you a bunch of questions. We'll make sure that you acknowledge that you're taking it off the platform and you claim your digital ownership. So far, we will be supporting MetaMask wallet. There's ability to support more wallets going forward. The reason for MetaMask is the most well integrated was Palm network, which we are on right now. And after that, you will see your assets in your MetaMask wallet. Our withdrawal flow also has a few internal milestones that you have to go through. So when you request a withdrawal, we have to approve it. This is done in order to make sure that your assets are secure and nothing goes off the platform without your consent. I saw also questions regarding emails. We will also send out emails confirming that obviously you requested the withdrawal, so there's no risk of your account being taken over somebody else. Just making sure it's secure. But that's sort of the highlight of it, and we can get into the specific details during the Q&A section.
Thank you, Yaro. That was very insightful. Okay, so let's get into these specifics. Let's start with withdrawal process and compatibility. You had mentioned that MetaMask is the first wallet that we're going to make compatible. Which blockchain will support the withdrawal of our collectibles?
So our assets are currently on Palm. You can go to Palm Chainlance Explorer and check out all the assets, all the contracts, every transactions. I know a bunch of people are doing that on a regular basis, so you can already see that. And as I mentioned before, MetaMask is the most well-integrated wallet, so we want to make sure the experience is smooth, and assuming that goes well, we learn from it, we will expand it to more wallets as well.
Great. And will users be able to bridge their collectibles to any blockchain? Which blockchains?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Which blockchains will support the withdrawal?
So Palm is EVM compatible. It's layer 2. So technically you can do that. I would discourage that to start with. That's a great question, though. I know a lot of collectors and just people who are passionate about this space are doing that. The next phase for us, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the next phase for us, depending on how this rollout goes and how much adoption we get, is depositing back to the platform. We can talk a little bit about that later, but essentially if you bridge the asset to a different chain, that ability for you will be closed. So I would discourage doing that to start with, but to be very honest here, it's your asset. If you want to bridge it, you can, but that's up to you, really.
Okay. So going back to the Palm blockchain, is there intention to get the Palm network working with marketplaces like OpenSea?
So that's a great question. I'll say that Palm is, obviously we're a user of Palm. It's a separate entity. They recently started integrating with Rarible. You can go check it out. I think it's live. We're actually started communicating with them to make sure all assets are displayed properly, and there's further integration, us as in Candy. So Rarible will be the first marketplace. There's NF Trade. I think they've supported it for a decent amount of time. I'm not sure about OpenSea and other marketplaces. I can definitely follow up on that. But so far, those two bigger ones are supported.
Great. As far as how the withdrawal process will work with self-custody, what does that look like, and what's the expected processing time?
So we expect it to be, so we'll start slow just to sort of align on the expectations, just to make sure because if assets are off the platform, they're off the platform. We want to make sure that everything works smoothly. So far, testing showed us a few edge cases that we haven't covered, which we fixed. And then with the beta testing, we will make sure that you guys are satisfied with the experience. In terms of the timeline, we'll try to trim it to make it as short as possible. Probably we'll start with a few days to start with, just to make sure it's good. And then we'll try to trim it so it's like hours, if not less. It is by design right now manually approved. So if you withdraw your assets, it's manually approved by us, similar to anything financial related, payments related, so that it's secure. And then going forward, we'll try to automate and smoothen the experience a little bit more, so it's quick.
Okay, great. And then as far as fees are concerned, what fees are associated when withdrawing collectibles? What are the costs of transferring collectibles to and from wallets? And what currency can be used specifically for this process?
Right. So we're in Palm Network. There is a native Palm token. Right now, Palm Network, in order to get Palm tokens, you have to request it. You can guys do it online. I encourage you to do that. It doesn't cost you anything. It just gives you a bunch of Palm tokens. You will need that in order to deposit your assets back to Candy when the time comes. The flow is very quick and automated. You essentially fill out a form and get the Palm tokens. So you will need that to sign the transaction for the deposits when the time comes. As far as withdrawal, which is sort of the primary focus for us right now, you will not pay any fees. That's it. So it will be smooth for you.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, now let's move on to usage, accessibility, post-withdrawal, early access, and exclusive content. This is a big one for our community. People really want to know what they still have access to. So first question, if users withdraw their collectibles from Candy, will they still have access to features like comic reading, early access, exclusive content, or secondary marketplace listings? Specifically, is there any way for users to read their DC3s if moved outside of Candy?
Yep. So the reality is, we are giving you full ownership of the asset. If you take it from the platform, it will be off the platform, so you won't see it in your collection anymore, because you withdrew it from the platform, right? So it's in your wallet. Internally, we keep a ledger, so we know that the asset that you own the asset, that we have the information, but we're not, obviously, it's your ownership. We pass it along. You can do whatever you want. For certain assets that, like the comic books, there's other assets that have utility on the platform. It will stay on the platform. In order for you to keep the utility, you'll have to deposit it back, which you can do. Again, this is the feature we will be working on and talking a little bit later. But as far as withdrawal goes, when you take the asset off the platform, you will unfortunately use the utilities that are associated with that asset. So like for comic books, like for instance, you won't be able to read it. You will own the token. You will see the metadata. You can sell it, let's say on Rarible, but in order to read it, you have to take it back to any.io, I suppose, after the migration. Now, why is that, right? Why not integrate it? It's a broader topic. Our assets are a little bit different than, it's not just an image or video. For comic books, it's a little bit more complex. In order for other marketplaces to adopt that, they would have to adopt the standard of the comic book. So let's say, just as an example, Rarible does it, and we work with them. In that particular case, the utility will also work on their marketplace. If they don't adopt it, obviously that won't work.
So it depends on their functionalities that they have available.
Correct. And to be clear, like from our standpoint, we are trying to build as much utility. We were working on different features for you guys that will still release later this year that bring more utility to our platform. So assets that originated on our platform will be focused on like just more experiences for you, again, on our platform. So you would have to bring them back.
Gotcha. I'm going to jump around a little here, Yaro, because I see some other related questions based on what you're talking about. For example, will serial numbers be highly visible or only in the metadata when in self-custody or on other marketplaces like OpenSea?
Yes, I would. So OpenSea is not currently supporting Palm, so I would take it off the question list as a marketplace because people might get confused But as far as Rarible and Trade, yes. Also, even right now, you can go to Palm Chainlens, which is an explorer in Palm, and check out the metadata. That metadata won't change. So you will use the same metadata wherever you take it.
And then what about as far as seeing the image or the video of their NFT? Will they still be able to view that on Candy platform if it's transferred to a third party? So for example, if they go to their collections page on Candy and their wallet is connected, the collectible has been withdrawn, can they still see that it was there at one point in time and it was removed? Will it be visible?
Yes. So you will so on Candy, on the platform, you will see that the asset was withdrawn. You will see what asset. And then at the same time, if you go to your MetaMask wallet, you can still see image, metadata, everything. So that still will stand.
Perfect. Great. So as far
as...
Oh, yes.
Sorry, I was just saying, I'm also reading the chat, so I'm following along, guys.
Great. We're trying to get to as many questions as possible, so thank you guys for your enthusiasm. Next question. Will users be able to sell their collectibles on other marketplaces? Well, I guess that's a yes. Right.
Yeah, we kind of answered that. So, yeah.
And then, so this one's a big one. Interoperability. This is BatCal holders are really interested. Is this a feature that's going to be part of this release? Would they be able to view their CALs in 3D within existing metaverses, such as spatial? Is that part of it?
Unfortunately, that would require an extra integration for us. So, like you obviously can do whatever the utility you have at the moment, but like if we're talking about other integration with other platforms, that would have to come as a next phase, I suppose, something that we integrate with. Unfortunately not, but. We are always considering new utilities, so we can definitely think through that.
Great. As far as when we do the process, we'll do this release, Will all collections be eligible for self-custody or only a select few? Specifically, will DC NFTs be included in self-custody initially when the feature goes live, or is it going to be rolled out in phases? How is that going to look?
Yep. So there's a bunch of questions I also want to answer in chat just a little bit to keep it more live and casual. But as far as your question, so yes, sorry, I'm like following along the questions. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. Will all collections be eligible for self-custody only, or only a select few when we start the process?
Yes, every collectible is eligible for withdrawal, but we will start with some more like common low-level collectibles just to start with. Also, as a part of beta testing, we'll probably test it on something that is just like a simple beta testing collectible that we can release just for the sake of testing to make sure that people don't lose their assets or the experience goes smooth. If we can always reword. And then when we go live with the feature for everyone, then yes, all your assets will be eligible for withdrawal.
Great. And I know we've already talked about being able to redeposit a collectible into Candy after withdrawal, that this is going to be like a future release. Is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, I guess there's a few questions in the chat.
Okay.
Where people are talking about the domain migration and the metadata and hosting it. So I think it's worth stopping for just a second and basically talking about it. So if you look, guys, through the NFT projects overall in the industry, like there are standards. A lot of projects are using IPFS and used IPFS, and some are using just hosting by themselves in like infrastructures like Amazon provides or whatever the partner they are using. We were also, when we started Candy, we also started using our own infrastructure to host metadata. And the reason that was done was because we wanted to have more control to change the assets. At that point, we had MLB focus. Now we have MLB and DC, two bigger projects for us. And we still have that in place. So if you go currently to an Explorer and pick any NFT that you own, or just look at the project and look at the metadata and click on the link, you will see that it points to tokens.candy.com, right? And then obviously you have the metadata, the JSON blob. So the metadata itself won't change, but since the domain is under candy.com and we are migrating to candy.io, we unfortunately have to remint it in order to keep the same domain. We were trying to see how we can avoid it in the future, just to make sure that like this doesn't happen anymore. But unfortunately in this particular case, because that was a constraint of our system, we have to do it. So, and the metadata will still be the same again, to point it out. But the domain you will see will be tokens.candy.io. And the same metadata for you guys.
Great, thank you for that, Yaro. I've got another question here. This one's a little more specific. A user had purchased their first Sweet Futures NFT on OpenSea 2 years ago, not the ones that we were selling on our website, but before our Candy.com even came into existence. Would the self-custody feature allow users to transfer their collectible from their Coinbase wallet to their Candy account and the Candy Marketplace? Is that something that is something we're looking to implement?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you for this. So we definitely are looking. So the whole idea, guys, was the self-custody and just in general, we've been kind of advocating for opening up the ecosystem for a long period of time. With full transparency, it's very hard to do with licensed IP brands. Because, a lot of complications can come with that. So you have to keep it you have to be very careful as you open it up. But we're starting this process. Self-custody is the first step. And in order for us to do that, we need to first allow our assets that originated on our platform to be seen on other marketplaces. learn from that. And then as a next step, when we introduce depositing, we would introduce depositing for existing assets and then the new assets or the assets, that originated outside of Candy. So the short answer is yes, but it will take a little bit of time to learn through like how it's working and what we can do with that. But again, the short answer is yes, it's just not for the first phase.
Great. So as a follow-up to that, will third-party marketplace support be available? So how do we plan to ensure the safety and authenticity of these collections that are coming from outside of our ecosystem?
So that's a great question. So it's a question that would have sort of two contexts. The first one is, as we are introducing domain migration, we're also using that as an opportunity to introduce new contracts with new standards that would sort of help with the royalty piece. Which obviously makes it a little bit more secure just because of the evolved standards. So you can pick marketplaces that are supporting, you can change that. There's a little bit more security in place just by design of the contracts. And then the second part of that is obviously marketplaces that are, industry well known and being more secure, that just provide a lot of the trust and safety measures. I know Rarible does. I will be honest, I'm not very familiar with NFTrade. And we mentioned OpenSea is putting a lot of time into that as well. And not that, not everything is going well, but I know they're trying. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to the next section, benefits and purpose. What are the benefits of enabling withdrawals for collectibles, and why are we implementing this feature?
I should stop reading the chat. Sorry, I'm getting distracted all the time. Okay. I closed the chat. Sorry, guys. I'll probably get back to the scanning it after our more formal Q&A, I suppose. So, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Shay.
Yeah, no worries. What are the benefits of enabling withdrawals for collectibles, and why are we implementing this feature?
First of all, we listen and hear you guys. I know it doesn't come as a sort of feature you requested a long time ago at this point, but we are trying to prioritize it on our roadmap. So that's the first answer. The second answer is, as I pointed out before, we are advocating internally to open it up and working with our partners to open up the ecosystem as much as we can. So when we were starting, we were very constrained and sort of limited with what we could do. Now I think the industry is getting a little bit more mature. So also the protocols are getting more secure. So a lot of licensed IP brands, they are opening it up and giving us an opportunity to just be more open, which means transferring the assets, giving ownership, and that's just the right time for us.
Great. This is a question from the community. Can you clarify how ownership rights in the NFT will work once it's withdrawn? Will users' rights remain the same as they were on Candy's platform?
It's really hard to dive into exact specifics because it's a very legal, intense question. But the way right now we're thinking about it is so NFT as an ownership is your ownership. You can buy, sell it, trade it, bridge it, do whatever you want. It's your assets like you would do with a physical good. However, when it comes to using it in any, commercial or anything that would require, where you would use the assets, graphics, content of the assets, in your own personal / commercial use, that's a different story. If you cross that bridge, that would require probably more validation with legal team, and we could sort of look into that. But as far as we know right now, that wouldn't be allowed. I'm not sure, again, it's a legal question, but I'm not sure how it works with physical goods. I would assume the same. If I wanted to use MLB cards or EC comic books, the physical ones, in things that I do for my personal business, that would probably not be allowed. Or I would have to pay a license fee or something. So the same would probably apply to digital collectibles.
Okay. Earlier you had mentioned that we're opening up the ecosystem gradually with the first phase for withdrawals and the next phase for deposits. At this time, are you able to share what the final feature will include when all planned phases are complete?
I can sort of, like, it's shaping as we are talking about it, and that's why we're trying to do it in a slow way, roll it out phase by phase so we can solicit feedback and improve it, because we have a plan in mind, but like if community feedback is X, we would have to change it. And that's why we're doing it in phases. But I can definitely walk you through our plan at the moment. So the first phase is giving you ownership, so you own the assets, you can trade externally. Our goal is to figure out how much traction we have. So let's say we start opening it up and we see a big adoption. That means depositing should come as soon as possible. And we already have a tech plan, so we understand what to do, and we can work on that in upcoming weeks or months to get it done as soon as possible, assuming there's a big adoption for phase one. If the phase one adoption is okay-ish, like we don't see big adoption, some people are doing that, then we probably would do it a little bit later in the year or beginning of next year, depending on depending on the numbers. So we'll try to be very driven by user feedback.
Great.
And then sort of the last phase of that is, I think we would love to make our ecosystem a little bit more open. I saw some questions around connecting your MetaMask and using that. That's our sort of end goal, for you guys to be able to connect your wallet and then sort of transact on the platform. That's a bigger picture. That would be probably next year. And obviously that depends on other things we're working on.
Perfect. Now I've got a one-off question. It doesn't belong in any of the categories that we talked about, but a big part of Web3 and self-custody is being able to understand the underlying token that represents users' assets in a publicly accessible way, right? So as of now, the View Token Details button on our site doesn't link directly to the asset anymore. What are the plans to make this information easier for people to view?
I think what we will probably convert it to as we start adopting or integrating with different marketplaces, or they adopt Palm, we will just keep links. So assets originated on our platform, but then let's say Rarible, NF Trade, we'll just link to those marketplaces. So there is better connectivity and, just visibility on the assets, on the collectibles.
Okay. Now let's get to beta testing. Can you walk us through the beta testing process? How can community members get involved? And what's the criteria for selection? I know that we're looking for a total of 10 beta testers. Can you please share what we're looking for in terms of qualifications and where they can sign up if they're interested?
Yep. So I with a specific thing, we will be sort of sharing that soon, but like exactly how they can sign up. But the overall picture is we wanted to keep it small to start with so we can work on qualitative feedback with those 10 customers. And then we will start opening it up to a bigger audience so we can solicit more feedback. We just don't want to open it up for everyone right away and then be like, oh, there's like certain issues or edge cases we didn't cover. So we want to make sure that it's really ironed out well and you guys are excited about that and sort of you don't have anything, the road is not bumpy essentially for you. So that's why we are keeping it in a small group. And then you will be able to essentially apply, submit your request if you want to participate in the beta testing and just help us to test it. We're looking for people with a little bit more different backgrounds from the technical standpoint. I know there's a lot of tech-savvy users in our community who will do it in a second, and for them it will be nothing new. Just adding, a chain to your MetaMask and just you're familiar with that. If you're not familiar with that, we also would like to work with you and, see how you go through that experience. Because we were thinking from a standpoint of like user not being tech savvy and we are guiding you through every step. So for people who are very tech savvy, it might be actually too rigid. But so we need different users.
Absolutely. Yeah, we want everyone with different backgrounds and experiences because we want to see how we can help everybody understand the feature, right? And the link to the form is go.candy.com/self-custody beta test. I know that the mods are throwing that. Oh, thank you so much, Megan. So go to the chat. The link is there. Again, that is go.candy.com/self-custody beta test. Anything else? And how long is the beta testing going to take, Yaro?
Yeah, so we'll do it. We'll honestly we'll play it by ear. It can go from 1 week to more. So I guess we'll see it. We might extend it. The goal of that is not to time limit and make sure that everything goes smooth. If every user has no issues and we ran it for a week or two and it's going well, great. If we see that we need more work and we found some edge case and we need to cover, we'll do that as well. So, but internal testing went well and we are fixing some things that we found. So we're ready for the next step.
Absolutely. And we're also looking for people who can provide qualitative feedback and suggestions throughout the process, right? We want users to not just test it and, walk away from it and understand how it works. We want feedback. That's the most important part. We want to understand how we can make it better for everybody. And next,
Thank you.
Sure. Let's talk about support and resources. What do we have? What are we offering for support and resources for community members for this feature?
So we obviously will be listening to you guys, your feedback as usual. So anything you have, please let us know. We will be very vocal about the steps of what needs to be done, even through the flow. So it's very clear. And then if you have any, as we just mentioned, if any suggestion or feedback, we're happy to stay in touch and just go into the weeds and figure out how to improve the experience. And obviously, all the channels that we currently have are still available for communicating with us.
Yes. We'll also have an FAQs resource page for everyone to refer to and a dedicated support team like we always do to address any questions or concerns. Did you want to go back? Oh, yes.
Sorry, just one thing. Our engineers, everyone is reading Discords. So feedback, comments, good comments, mean comments, we are reading it all. So you just, the people who participate, if you want to let us know more, be as sort of specific as you want to be, and we will definitely help you and address it.
Yara, did you want to go back to we've gone through all of our questions. Did you want to respond to any other questions in the chat? I know you mentioned earlier.
Yes, guys. Yep, awesome. Let's do that. And I would love for you to maybe, I love the, emojis and whatnot, but if you can post your question because there's a lot of text, just with question word, that would be awesome. Okay, let me just. Yes, we will create FAQs as we mentioned. We will do that for sure.
There's a question about, and I know you already addressed this, but just in case someone missed it, there's a question about in the video that we showed that there's a cell that would be needed as far as gas fees are concerned. They want to know where to get that, and can you let everyone know again? Maybe they weren't on the stage when we covered it earlier about the Palm tokens.
Yeah, we will. So that's important for the second phase of depositing back. So we will definitely share that information, but I wouldn't worry about that for now. But we can share it when the time comes to that. We obviously can share it. And I think we will share a link also right now if you want to get Palm tokens and participate in any other projects on Rarible. We can also do that for sure. Okay. We will definitely look into Hero platform. I actually used it for a while, so I'll definitely take a look. Okay, what else? Sorry, it's like question down, question up. Cold storage, that's a great question. We haven't discussed it to start with. And I would have to see how that would actually work. Just to make sure it's like a smooth transition. We can definitely follow up on that. We can test it and tell you how it's working. On the offers, that's actually something we're discussing. So yes, for sure. Okay, what else? Shay, if you see any other questions, let me know. I'm just scrolling and trying to digest.
I am scrolling as well. So, do you want to clarify on the fuel cells that was discussed?
Sorry, what was that?
The fuel cells that was discussed in the chat. Just wanted to clarify that it was a dummy collection that was created in our staging environment.
Yes.
And so it's visible in the collection that was used in that screen recording. It's a totally different. It's different from Palm Token that will be used when depositing that to the platform.
Yep. So we'll have a very just specific for this effort of testing collection that like a bunch of NFTs that we will test on. Okay. Sorry, scrolling up. I see comments that like people are suggesting to open it all up. Yes, I think we can definitely, like from our standpoint, we would love to open it up, but like we're constrained by sort of the legal teams of the partners we work with. They want to make sure that their IP, their content, is distributed in a certain way. I wish it was easier from my personal standpoint, but it is what it is. So.
I'm scrolling through and seeing other questions as well, Yara. But if there are any other questions that you want to pull out, feel free to pick them.
Yep, there's one question. Why will anyone be incentivized to withdraw? The reason why a lot of requests that come from community was around digital ownership and owning the assets. We want to make sure that we facilitate that and you have ability to own your assets and deposit them back. So that's our focus right now. We cannot do it in just do it all at the same time just because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And we want to learn from it. So and also more adoption of different marketplaces. So it also takes time. Since we have at least 2 marketplaces and we want to do it, the next step for us is allowing you to own it, transact somewhere else, bring it back to the platform as a next step. And I think that's an exciting opportunity. At least a lot of users were asking for that.
There's a question about what the time frame looks like. How long would it take from the beta testing process before we can actually release and use it on the platform?
Yep. So beta testing is really needed for us to make sure that we didn't forget any edge cases, because the way it works is you're testing the happy pass, it works, then you're trying to test an edge cases and break it as much as you can, and sort of you have findings and you sort of address all the issues that you have, which we've done. And now it's opening up to community and making sure that you guys are happy with the experience and there's nothing that we forgot or you can call out. And assuming that goes well, week 2, maybe less, if everything goes well, there's no reason why we shouldn't open it up right away. So again, it's just making sure that everything goes well. Again, calling out no withdrawal fees for you guys. So the experience should be really smooth.
And then I also wanted to call out, someone else asked why open withdrawal when you can't even tell us when deposit will be available. again, we want to make sure that we're testing everything, that everything works well before we move forward. Right, Yarrow?
Yes, correct. And also, I see questions around NF trade or Rarible. So we obviously can, if you have any questions to those platforms, we can definitely make sure we connect and make sure that our projects are working properly. That's what we're working with Rarible right now, just to make sure that assets are displayed, there's no friction. And so let us know if you see anything on those platforms that we can improve as well. I'm sure they would be happy to.
What do you think about taking one more question, Yarrow?
Yeah, sure. Let's go on. That's why I'm here. Okay, let's see. Sorry, some posts are really long. It takes me time to...
This one, what about this? Someone asked, what happens if an asset is taken what happens if an asset that is taken off during self-custody and then later redone because of the domain migration, or will Candy not allow certain collections to be part of self-custody until they are reissued?
Yeah, so our goal is not to confuse you guys. Our goal is to make the migration, remint, make sure that everything is available for you and you don't have even to worry about it. For beta testing, it really doesn't matter because the feature is ready. So we can do that and then open it up for you based on, the reminting when it's completed. So that shouldn't be even a problem. I just thought of an idea, like Megan will kill me, but if we can also like to just go a little bit more proactive. We can, as you guys are submitting your requests to participate in withdrawal, if we see that the percentage of people is really big and people like doing that, and that also correlates with how many assets are withdrawn from the platform, and we can bump up deposits back in priority. And as I mentioned, it's already planned, so we should be ready to go sooner than later. So to the questions of when deposits will be back or will be introduced as soon as we can. So I think we can be proactive about it and get ahead of that.
Great. Well, I think that is all the time we have questions for today. So Yarrow, thank you so much for walking us through all of these details and for answering the questions from the chat. We really appreciate that so much. I think this covers the main points we wanted to touch on today. But before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or closing remarks you want to share with the community, Yarrow?
I will follow up on bad calls in 3D. So, and then yes, Hero platform. I'll take a look. Yes, for sure. I've actually used it before. Yeah.
Great, thank you. See, Yarrow, you guys. Our engineering team is amazing. You guys listen to the community. We take everything into account. We love the feedback, so please keep them coming. Thank you so much, Yarrow. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope this discussion gave you a clearer understanding of how self-custody will work and how it's going to benefit you as a collector. Again, if you're interested in participating in the beta test, please fill out our form at go.candy.com/self-custody beta test. Again, a huge thank you to you, Yarrow, for sharing your insights. We will share the recording of this Discord stage shortly for anyone who missed it or who would like to revisit the conversation. We will continue to share updates and announcements via email, Discord, and X. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us at help@candy.com. And for additional info on beta testing, you can go to our FAQs at go.candy.com/candy self-custody FAQs. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. We look forward to continuing this journey with you as we bring self-custody to life. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.